When you're playing tennis, it involves lots of different skills. The three different skills are an intellectual skill, a perceptual skill, and a motor skill. An intellectual skill involves thought process, so you have to think about where your opponent is on the other side of the court, how you're going to hit the shot, where you want to be after you finish hitting the shot. Perceptual skill is all about like the detection and interpretation of like the information about what's going on in the environment. So you'd have to think about what type of shot you're going to hit if, say, it's windy, or where you're going to have to be positioned if it's raining on the court, so the court's going to be slippier. And the last one is motor, which is like physical movement, such as like muscular control, which is where you want to like smoothly execute a physical movement for a response, maybe such as a drop shot. So if your opponent hits a drop shot, you want to be able to get there as fast as you can, but nice and smoothly, so that when you're not getting to the drop shot, you're going to be touching the net and losing the point. There's also lots of different classifications of skills, which like make up a continuum. This allows the certain skill to be analysed, and then it can be placed between two different margins. There's lots of different classification of skills, but the ones that mainly affect tennis would be a gross skill. It is a gross tennis, like a forehand would be a gross skill, because it involves lots of different large muscle movements and groups, which are like usually associated with strength, power and endurance. A tennis forehand would also be an open skill, because it can be infected by an unstable environment. So if the environment's changing, you might have to change the type of forehand that you want to hit, whether it's going to be flat, topspin or a slice shot. A forehand would also be a discrete skill, because it's got like a clear defined beginning and an end. So when you hit your forehand, the beginning would be as soon as you take your racket back to hit the shot, and then the end would be as soon as you've made contact with the ball, and then you're returning back to the middle of the court to be ready for your opponent. It's also, I guess, tennis forehand would also be an externally paced skill, because the action is determined by external sources, like maybe such as your opponent and the environment around you. A tennis shot, maybe such as a serve, would be best taught as a part method, because it can be split up into a lot of different sub-routines, such as your feet positioning, your ball toss, where your racket's going to be, whether it's above your head or below your head, how you're going to hold your racket, so which type of grip you're going to hit when you hit your serve, and your follow through after you've hit the shot as well, where your feet need to be and where your hands need to be on the racket. The part method usually consists of high levels of complexity but low levels of organisation. It doesn't really best fit the serve, because a serve does need a lot of organisation, but it is a very complex shot. It's probably the most complex shot in tennis. So it also needs independent subroutines, a tennis serve, because if you're going to try and teach a tennis serve in whole method instead of part method, it's going to be very confusing for the person you're teaching. Also, it usually a part method can also have increased levels of dangerously for not for your opponent, for the person you're teaching. If you're practicing your serve, if you're not actually doing it right, you can get shoulder, elbow and wrist injuries from using the wrong type of technique, or not being able to follow through properly, or trying to be able to place a serve with more power than you're able to. There's also lots of different types of guidance that a coach could use when teaching someone to use a specific skill or shot. The 4 different types of guidance are visual, manual, verbal and mechanical. The main ones that would be used in tennis would be visual, manual and verbal. You wouldn't really use mechanical. Mechanical is usually using a piece of equipment to be able to shape how you're playing. The only real piece of equipment I guess you could use to shape it would be such as like a target for when you're serving, or being able to use cones to specify where you want the person you're coaching to be able to hit the shot. Visual guidance is obviously where you will be watching the coach, and then you'll be able to mimic what type of shot they're hitting. Verbal is when the coach will be just telling you, they won't be showing you, they'll just be explaining to you how to hit the shot. And manual guidance would be when they take your racket, hold your racket with you and take you through each step of the shot, such as the forehand. When teaching someone, a coach will usually, the first thing they do will be usually to show the player. So say it's a backhand, they'll usually show the player that they're trying to teach the correct technique for it, and then they will ask the person who they're coaching, they'll ask them to be able to show them exactly what they've just seen, and then they'll take them through the manual guidance. So say they've got the feet positioning wrong, they might move their feet into the correct position that it should be in. Make sure their feet aren't crossed. So if you're taking the backhand and you're right-handed, your left foot should be out to the first side of the court, and then your right foot should be about shoulder width apart. And then the next thing they'll be able to do is the coach will watch the performer do each step, such as if they're doing the serve, they'll watch them do each step of the sub-routines for like a part method. So they'll focus on their ball toss first, and then where their feet need to be, and then they might go through how much power they want to hit for their second serve compared to their first serve. And then they'll go through the verbal guidance, and they'll be telling them exactly how much power they need to be hitting each shot with.